Guys, how's it going? Today we're going to be changing it up a little bit. I've decided to show you my face because I'm getting kind of tired. I was getting kind of tired, and some other people mentioned they're getting kind of tired about or with how the videos have been being made, just straight onto the table all the time. So I'm going to try a couple of these videos where you see my face. So we'll see after a couple of videos whether you guys get totally grossed out or not. And if that's the case, then I'll go back to the old formula. But for right now, I'm going to be talking about motors today because what I have with me today is some fresh new motors. Now, the top two motors you guys are probably pretty familiar with. These top two are the Matrix Magnum and the Matrix Turbo 3000 motors. They've been on the market for like a long time. They've been, as long as I've been playing airsoft, I think these have been on the market. So these have been on the market for a while. I actually like these motors a lot. A lot of people talk a lot about Lonex and stuff like that, and those are great motors. Those are usually what I use in custom build and stuff like that. But as far as the magnet strength, the Matrix magnets are actually one of the strongest ones on the market. The only other stronger ones that I've handled personally have been the GMP Satan 180 and 170 Devil Jet magnets, and the new version. Those are really strong, and the Sistema magnets in their older turbo and magnet motors. But otherwise, like for the price, these are probably some of the strongest magnets that you can get, which is why I really like to make the I don't have them something like this, like the Franken-Torque motors out of the magnet cans out of the Matrix motors. These two are brand new. I believe the TPA on these is like 14 for the high-speed turbo one and 16 for the Magnum motors. So as far as like what you would classify them as, I would say that the Magnum is more of a balanced motor. You can get a lot more high torque motors, say out of like a JG Blue or out of a like a Chowli Neo motor. But as far as getting something that's like sort of a balance between those, the Matrix Magnums are a very good choice for that. I don't really use high speed motors anymore. I know there's a decent amount. There's like a decent market for it because some people just want to go fast with their motor, but they suck too much power from me. With that being said, the Matrix Turbo motor goes quite fast. But really what everyone wants to take a look at are the new motors. These two just hit evic.com today. These are the Godzilla 5000 and the Sonic 5000 motor. I'm going to be testing these in my primary gun right here compared to the stock motor that I have, or not the stock motor, but the like Neo Chowli that I have in there. I think it's about 22 TPA on the 10-to-1 gear set. So we'll see what each of these performs like. I'll give you an idea for the magnet strength, and then I'm going to be disassembling these and comparing the TPA on these to see how big of a difference there is on them, if there is any. I haven't opened these ones up just because they're so new, so we'll be taking a look and seeing how these sort of stack up with each other. Alright, so then these are going to be the two high torque motors, the Matrix 3000 Magnum and the Godzilla 5000. So I'm going to twist the tops. I mean, I know this isn't really a scientific test, but this is how I usually test magnet strength, is just twisting the pinion gears on them and seeing how hard they are to turn. I'm not sure if that's totally like a quantifiable or a scientific test for it. That's usually what I do. Correct me if I'm wrong. Just leave me a note in the bottom if there's a better way to test this. But I've been doing it for a while just to give myself a rough idea of how strong the magnets are, or how readily they attach to everything in my life. So, all right. So then I'm going to take the Magnum. It's all right, and then the Godzilla motor feels a good deal harder to turn at the top. It does feel a little bit smoother. I'm not sure if that's because the brushes on the Magnum need to be worn in a little bit, but it definitely feels a little bit like there's a little bit more friction on there. Let me put these aside really quick and then grab the turbo and the Sonic motor. Let's do the Matrix turbo motor first. Okay, that's alright. And then the Sonic motor. Okay, so the Sonic motor, the magnets do feel a little bit stronger, and weirdly enough, the sound on this one's a little bit grittier. I'm not sure again if this is all just needs because the brushes need to be broken in a little bit, but that's just something neat to know. The towers on all these motors are pretty much the same. They changed the surface finish of these. Now they're going with this sort of like shiny gold finish on the 3000s. The 5000s have this sort of matte finish on it, being blue and orange for the Godzilla motor. Alright, so Now that that's done, I'm gonna show you the baseline for my gun, and we're gonna figure out how these other two motors stack up as far as rate of fire in comparison. Okay, so this is my current primary. I'll make a video about this in the future, but basically the basics of the gun you need to know are that it's running a Spectre MOSFET. Um, it has a M1 Prometheus M120 spring on a full stroke, 10-to-1 Riot gear set. The sector gear is a GNP though, I think. The motor on this one right now, I believe, is a 22 TPA Chowli motor with its neomagnets, of course, but it's Chowli motor. And then it's wired up to a Blue LiPo 25 to 50C, I think it is right now. So I would use my bigger Sky LiPo, but that one is currently, one of the wires popped off, so I have to resolder that back on. But until then, this is just what I have to test it with, so this is what it sounds like right now. This should be on a full charge battery. Alright, so I don't know what I think the last time I tested the rate of fire on this, it was like, my chrono was telling me it was like 25 to 30, something right there, but it's pretty reasonable for what I usually do for it, so I haven't really upgraded any more than that, but I'm going to swap the motor really quick and we'll see what that sounds like on a different kind of motor. Alright, so I just swapped the motor, and this is with the Matrix Turbo 3000. Alright, and that is on a 10-to-1 gear set with a very high speed motor. You notice how fast that's cranking? That's a pretty good indicator of that top speed that it can get up to. And I'm not sure if this is just me in the way that my ears are hearing this, but I feel like there's a little bit of spool up time, like it goes and it sort of ramps up as far as the rate of fire. And you notice this in guns or motors like the GMP M120 motor does this too. A lot of the high speed motors that are geared for sort of that top RPS will sort of have this sort of curve that'll go like that. So that's something I'm noticing right now. So I'm going to pop in the Sonic 5000 motor and see if we get if there's any noticeable difference as far as the rate of fire goes. Okay, and then this is with the Sonic 5000 motor. That's actually pretty fast. I'm not sure if this is because the magnet strength's a little bit different, or if it's because the what do you call it, the actual TPA is different. I'm hoping that there's a TPA change, because that's going to be one of the more significant things that they changed to the motor, because as far as I can tell, these are OEM by the same factory, and the actual components look pretty similar to me, at least. So that being said, I can get an RPS reading and sort of annotate it right there, but I can definitely hear that this one cranks a lot faster than the Matrix 3000, which is impressive in my opinion, just because just speed motors in general, I gotta admit, going into this, I wasn't expecting too big of a difference that I'd be able to tell. Maybe just a slight difference, but I can pretty easily tell that there's a slightly faster RPS in that motor. So that's good. That means that there's some sort of performance difference between the two, and there's an advantage to buying the newer 5000 version. So that being said, I'm going to swap it out for the Matrix Magnum. We're going to see a difference in that one too. Alright, and this is with the Matrix 3000 Magnum motor. The rate of fire is obviously going to be a little bit slower than either the other speed motors. Trigger response is one of those weird things, like I don't know how to explain it. You can sort of hear it sometimes, depending on how many guns that you've shot, to see the difference in that, but the trigger response is much better than either of these other motors, and for good reason. This is going to be one of the torque motors that's going to be a little bit snappier. The rate of fire is going to be a little bit lower, but most people generally tend to go with the Magnum or the torque motors just because it's more efficient. I will say that I'm noticing something with the older Matrix 3000 motors is that the pinion gear, for whatever reason, doesn't want to slide in as easily to the gearbox and stuff, and these look like they're pretty similar, but I feel like, and I know that this is a complaint with the older Matrix 3000 motors, is that the pinion gear would be too wide, so sometimes it wouldn't fit into certain gearboxes correctly. I know VFC, Aries, I believe, are the two that I can think of off the top of my head that didn't fit into it. You actually had to like Dremel out the gearbox hole at the bottom, or change the pinion gear to get them to fit correctly. So, but I mean, all these fit in my GMP gearbox just all right, but definitely the older 3000 motors don't go in quite as smoothly. So I'm not sure if that's an issue with the I'm not sure if that's an issue with just an old batch of pinion gears, and the new ones are all going to come with the newer 5000 style pinion gears, but that's just something I'm noticing. Maybe I'm just installing it wrong, but just something to note. So now, that being said, I'm going to swap it out for the 5000 Godzilla motor. Okay, and then this is with the Godzilla 5000 motor. Now, this one is actually a good deal slower than that last motor, so these are both really good signs because it tells me that they're obviously changing something in the motor to change the RPS, which is the easiest thing that I can just by ear sort of listen to. But, I mean, as you go higher in the TPAs, the turns per armature, you're going to be getting more torque out of it, theoretically. So, but you're going to be losing speed off of that. So obviously they're going lower in the or I'm going to disassemble these really quick just so I can quantify this, or quantify or qualify, one of those two. Anyway, I'm going to obviously be getting evidence for this when I disassemble the motor, but it seems like, to me at least, that they're making these a lower TPA to make it even faster, and then an even higher TPA for the new Matrix 5000 motors to make them a little bit more torquey. So what does this mean? It means that they're obviously going to be able to pull heavier springs, and they'll be able to do it more efficiently. So I do have an M190 gearbox, that other one that I showed you earlier in another video. Check that video out if you want to see sort of that shooting on a different setup. But I have that gearbox. I don't have a grip that'll work offhand with that right now because that's on a different gun. But I might throw these all together to see how those work with those guns. But honestly, if the TPA on this Godzilla motor is very close to the TPA on my Neo Chao-Li motor that I showed you in the very first shooting test, then that's actually a pretty good sign, because that means that people that are looking for DSG builds, very snappy trigger response builds, will be able to get a pre-built motor that's similar to the Neo Chao-Li's without having to hunt for it necessarily. You can get them from certain retailers in certain places, but they're a little bit harder to get. So having a pre-built motor like this with really strong magnets, these magnets being stronger than the ones in the Neo Chao-Li, is very good. So I'm going to be taking that apart in the next section coming up. Okay, so I've disassembled the Matrix Sonic and Turbo 3000, or Turbo 3000, Sonic 5000. Honestly, like a lot of the hardware is pretty similar. The pinion gears look very similar, but the one on the I don't even know if you can see this, but the one on the 5000 looks like it's slightly smaller, which would be sort of in line with how I was feeling the motor go into the gun itself. This is the older one. I did notice that they're not Loctiting or gluing. I don't even know if it's Loctite on this one, but they're not gluing, or at least not as much glue on the new 5000 motors as they did with the old 3000s. With the 3000s, you usually need to heat them up with like a blowtorch or a lighter to smoothly get the grub screw out of the D-type pinion gear here. Not the case with the new 5000, but honestly, I don't really feel like you need to Loctite that little screw in unless it's constantly coming off, because they generally tend to be pretty snug, and this one in particular was very snug. Just it didn't require the blowtorch to get it off. Otherwise, on the inside, I mean, the color on the little retention ring is a little bit different on the 3000. It's a little bit shinier. That doesn't really make a difference though. All the other hardware looks the same. The magnets on both of these look very similar as far as the markings on them and the thickness and the spacing on the. At least that I can tell, the spacing on the 5000 looks like they're a little bit tighter together than the 3000, but I mean, not a whole lot of difference. Nothing that would be like, oh, that's definitely a step up in quality or something like that. The armatures in the actual cans, those seem to be, not perfectly shimmed as far as the magnets to how the armatures rattle around in there. There's a little bit of play, but nothing crazy, like a huge amount of slot between the armature and the can, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. The armatures, though, right off the bat, I want to say that the 5000 is made a little bit nicer. It just feels like it's been wound with a little bit more care if you compare that to the 3000. The colors on these are a little bit cleaner looking, as opposed to the older looking epoxy on the 3000. The TPA on the 5000 looks like it's a little bit lower. This is the 5000 right here, and this is the 3000 on the right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be able to cut these apart and actually unwind them and count how much TPA is per armature, but the 3000, from what I've been told before, is about 14 TPA, and then this one, I want to say it's somewhere between 10 and 12, because it looks like there's not as many winds in here as the 3000. So that's good. Also, you'll notice that they chose to insulate the armature a little bit differently with this little plastic washer there. I already mentioned the color of the epoxy is a little bit different. The solder joints on the actual other side of the armature look pretty similar, though. I mean, there's nothing too crazy new about those. All in all, very pleased that they kept like a good sort of quality control on or at least with this one, the 5000 motors. Not to say that the 3000s are bad, but the 5000 definitely look a lot cleaner than the 3000s. So next, I'm going to be taking apart I'll be reassembling these, and I'll be taking apart the 3000 Magnum and the 5000 Godzilla motor next. Okay, so these are the torque motors disassembled. Same thing I said about the speed motors applies to this. The hardware is pretty similar. The only difference between those and this one is that, for whatever weird reason, the shiny retention ring is on the Godzilla motor and not the original Matrix 3000. I don't know why. It doesn't really make a difference. They disassembled pretty much the same way anyway. Let's see. So, but the really cool part about this is the actual armatures. Now, on this armature, the Godzilla armature, it says 24, and I'm not sure if this is more likely a marking for the batch of armatures that was made, but I'm wondering if this is the TPA count on them, and I don't remember offhand what the one on the Sonic motor said, but if it does, then I'll look back in the footage and see if it does and annotate later. That's pretty cool. If this is 24 TPA, then that's really high, which is just a slightly higher than the 22 TPA Chowli armatures that you're able to find sometimes, or the 22 TPA JG Blue armatures. But you can definitely see in comparing the windings between the original Matrix 3000 Magnum and the Godzilla motor that there's a lot more windings, and the wires themselves are thinner on the Godzilla motor, which is good. This is telling me that they did put a little bit more windings into this, making it a slower motor, but giving it a lot more torque, which is what you want out of a high torque motor. And all of this coming out of a motor that's already built, and I don't need to go and find a stock Chinese motor and then install it into one of these motor cans. So far I'm pretty impressed with all these motors and stuff like that. If you guys have any other questions about the motors, let me know in the comment section below. Shoot me a message on Facebook. I'm hopefully going to be putting out more videos in a more regular fashion. But yeah, just let me know what you guys think, and I will talk to you guys later.